can you describe what a great day in your job looks like? A little bit day in the life background.
Well, in the last 2 years, it's been really focused on, one of the things that I actually do have it within the broad scope of public health. A lot of my experience and my interests have been in infectious diseases and communicable diseases and outbreak management. And I've spent a lot of time developing, working both nationally and internationally on things like pandemic influenza preparedness and planning. And in November of 2019, in the before times, as I call it, I was actually in Rome with an international group looking at what we call non-pharmaceutical interventions or public health measures that you can do to help manage a pandemic. Little did we know that very soon we would be using all of these tools that we have to try and manage things here. So in the last 2 years, my life has really been focused on two really important things: the managing through this pandemic, but also the trying to do what we can to manage the toxic drug crisis, which continues, particularly here in BC, to cause so much tragedy every day. So very different and complex issues that means that I start my day quite early in the morning. I'm an early bird person, so I start about 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, and then I often am doing various things through most of the day, and I usually get home about 7 o'clock in the evening, and then I'm early to bed because that's been my life for the last 2 years. So before that, it was a lot more exciting. I did a lot of traveling around. I did a lot of work with, I have a number of groups that I'm involved with the World Health Organization and other groups. But this has been a crisis that has been a global storm that we've all been in, and so trying to the many different pieces that we're talking to every day, it's amazing, and I think it's we're getting to a good place, but it's exhausting for sure.
Fair enough. And those 14-hour work days definitely does not contribute to the work-life balance. But during your 14 hours, what are some things that you get up to?
Well, let's think about this morning. What did we do this morning? I had conversations around, we had a conversation with our legal team because we had to take some actions around the risk to do with mink farming. So you may have heard that there's still mink farms in British Columbia, that mink can be very susceptible to COVID-19. And we've had a couple of outbreaks where it's passed between the SARS-CoV-2 has passed between humans and mink on these farms. And so one of the issues that we looked at was the global risk and how do we mitigate that risk. And we had, despite putting in all kinds of measures, we had ongoing transmission on farms. So government made the decision that they were going to phase out mink farming. And so the mink farmers applied for an injunction to prevent that from happening. And we had to put together the evidence for the lawyers to take to court to say why we're doing this. So that was this morning. The judgment came down that the judge found in our favor and did not grant an injunction. So that's good. We had a long conversation about with our what I call our restart or our public health measures group about what are we doing next and what's the trajectory. I had an hour-long meeting with our data folk about where we are. We look at the epidemiology, we talk about why do we see hospitalization in this group versus that group. So that was a large part of this morning. I have a couple of meetings this afternoon. Let me just think, what else do we have? Oh, I'm meeting with a First Nations community who has a lot of concerns about reopening and letting people back in their community because they've had some illness, particularly in elders, and wanting to know how they can safely go back to some of the important ceremonies that happen in their communities. We have a public health leadership call, so we're talking about doing another. We've done 3 surveys called this COVID Speak, where we get information from people about how the pandemic's affected them and what are the things that are issues for them. And that's been really helpful in helping us design programs for recovery and understanding. I mean, one of the most important things we heard in the first survey was that across the board, it affected everybody negatively, families negatively, that's kids weren't in school. So that was something that we heard, no matter what income level, no matter what education level, how many kids they had, that children being in school was incredibly important, not just for their own learning, but for supporting for families, for emotional learning, for social interaction, all of those things. And that really was one of the reasons why I have focused so much on making sure that our schools remain open through this whole time. Anyway, so you know, the issues are all over the place.
It's coming down kind of heavy, but I'm not shy. Throw my splash to the puddle and I'm feeling fine. I got raincoat